I'd like to call the July 28th, 2023 meeting of the Niskayuna Complete Streets Committee to order. We're meeting in the Schaefer Room at Town Hall. Some are joining us by Zoom. The rest of us are here in the room. And I'll quickly do our roll call. Tess Healy. Okay. Carla Duggal is here with us. Thank you, Carla. I'm here. We have Jim Levy joining us on Zoom. Hi, Jim. How are you? Elise Corbin may be joining us soon. I'm hopeful. Andrew Millspaw sent an email saying that he couldn't make today's meeting, and Catherine also. Catherine,
correct. Yeah.
Okay, so they're not here today. Ben O'Shea, our other co-chair, is here, and we have two folks attending today, Mary O'Keefe and Catherine Miller. They would both like to speak at the meeting. So why don't we do that? The privilege of the floor is open. So if you have something you'd like to say to the committee, just give us your name and what street address. Does that matter? Or if you're willing to divulge?
Oh, yes, I am. My name is Mary O'Keefe, and I have lived at 2255 Algonquin Road in the Schaefer neighborhood since 1990. I actually lived there for 2 years before I learned how to drive, believe it or not. And this is before Route 7 was widened. I used to be the crazy lady who took the bus with her young kids and walked everywhere. I did eventually give in and learn to drive. But I won't be driving forever. So I'm very grateful for the work of this committee. I used to feel like a voice crying in the wilderness. I have read all of your documents that are on the web, and it's like a wish list of things like, you know, that connector on Rosendale Road, the paving a walkway there to Elisha Kill, the connecting the Rosendale neighborhood to the woods, you know, to the asphalt path in River Road Park, all extremely sensible suggestions. And I'm extremely excited by the fact that there are young people, students serving on this committee. And I know this is summer vacation, but I just want to do a shout out. I hope you read these minutes later. I, in particular, would like to applaud the committee for the letters that I saw were drafted and sent in June to New York State Department of Transportation and other interested parties. I think there are a lot of important initiatives, but I want to highlight one that I think really needs additional attention. So I see that a big priority is getting New York State Department of Transportation to study safety on Route 7. And I think it is not just Route 7, not the whole stretch needs attention, but in particular, I live half a block from the most dangerous point. So that block between Algonquin and Hickory. In the last 12 months plus 1 week, there have been 3 serious accidents there. July 17, 2022, Ann Burchard, who was 55 years old, was killed in a head-on collision. Less than just 9 months later, April 23rd, Pilar Secord, the same location, that same block, was killed in a 2-car collision. And then this past Monday, there was a horrific 3-car collision. As far as I know, there are no fatalities yet, but 2 women were airlifted to Albany Med from in front of the synagogue, but the accident happened down across from Bellevue. That's 12 months plus 1 week. It could be if you look at the footage that is on local TV stations and newspapers, I mean, those cars are it's a miracle that anyone survived that. And that's all at that same point. And you point out in your letters, it's a 1.5-mile uncontrolled segment, no crosswalks, no stop signs, no traffic lights. And you have a hospital, the only OBGYN hospital serving Schenectady County, a place where many people do not have cars. And if they want to give birth or visit a new baby or a new mom, they take the bus, and I see people crossing there. So I really think this is an emergency. I know it's a state road. The town is limited. The police know it's dangerous. I see police cars staking out that intersection at Algonquin, the bottom of the hill, lots of times. They know there's a lot of speeding there, but they can't be there 24/7, and it's not enough of a deterrent. There are other non-fatal accidents. There was a horrific motorcycle accident right at the corner of Mohegan, a block down. Just horrific. Visibility is very bad. You're coming up the hill and you can't see as you come up that hill from the east. You can't see very far ahead of you when there's a bend in the road. It is incredibly dangerous. So could the town at least put up big signs that say dangerous intersection? The speed limit is 40, cars are going 60. Can we get at least a big electronic sign until the New York State Department of Transportation does something to warn people to slow down? These 3 accidents I'm talking about, they all happened during beautiful daytime sunny weather, all at this one point. And I think we really need to treat that as an emergency. Okay, thanks. I will listen, but I will be writing op-eds, talking to elected officials, and I will be closely I will be sending a letter in support of your letters that have sent, and really be closely following the work of this committee. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, one of the committee members sent out a link or to DOT. They have some kind of link for
It's like a feedback form.
yes
For about road safety.
yes yep.
We need to do
Reply.
pretty quickly. And
Mark Feldman, who was the regional director of DOT, said that we would be sending a reply. If I may, the town police chief has sent a letter to state DOT and district attorney Bob Carney is also. I think there's a serious accident near Shannon Boulevard where he sent a letter also to state DOT saying this road has had some horrific accidents and the state needs to take a look at safety issues and the road. So they know about it.
But if the town, meanwhile, I realize the state grinds slowly and they've got lots of things to think about. But if there's anything the town can do in terms of just signage, I know they put signs, when they're recruiting workers, electronic signs go up on Route 7, even though it's a state road for town purposes. So if there's something, and make people aware of their speed.
so you mean like the temporary, like orange trailer signs,
Yeah.
like highway signs.
Did you want to speak it up? Sure. So I am Catherine Miller, and I also live at 2255 Algonquin Road, which is where I've lived since 1990. Since I was born, I grew up in Indiana, and I have been really primarily taking the bus, walking, biking as my primary form of transportation. Since I was 15. A few years during the pandemic, I was driving more, but that really has been my main way. it's very unacceptable. And so I wanted to second and speak in support of everything that Mary has shared about the concerns that we have around the safety on Route 7, and that's definitely worrying to us, and also in appreciation of the work that the committee has been doing. I love seeing especially the plans for improving Russellville Road and improving access to the schools there, and also again looking at what can we do potentially with some of those intersections on Route 7 to safely get across. And I've spent many hours walking along Route 7, getting to and from the bus stop. I have to walk further. I have to walk all the way down from St. David's to cross. And I see that a lot of people, if they're using that bus stop, they don't walk to the nearest crosswalk. They, will cross closer to where they're trying to cross, even when there's no safe way to do that. So I worry for people, and I hope that that it will be able to continue to prioritize work and maintenance. Thank you. Chairman Jeffrin, just a note, Tess, you able to join us?
Tess Healy, thank you. Tess, it's nice to see you.
Hello. Hello.
I didn't do.
Okay,
Is
so
anyone want to offer a comment on Troy Road? Or?
I would say just to keep sort of the Robert's Rules of Order going, and you go without privilege of the floor. But you can make comments on, and we actually have Route 7 on our agenda.
Yeah. Okay. So, if there's no one else who wishes to speak and come to the floor, I'll close that. The July 7 minutes, that's our June 28th meeting. We moved to July 7. I looked over the minutes and didn't see any amendments that I found. Anyone else on the committee get a chance to look at the minutes for July 7 and have any notifications or things? If not, I move that we adopt the meeting minutes for July 7, 2023. I so moved. Second from Ben O'Shea. All in favor of accepting the minutes. Up your hand up. Tess and Jim Levy, okay with the minutes for July 7 or let's see.
Okay, you get 2 thumbs up.
Okay, good. So let's see that. All right. Moving on to our climate smart grants. It's essentially New York State Department of Environmental Conservation makes monies available through their Climate Smart Communities program. And in 2019, our neighbor town of Glenville applied and got about $1 million of assistance, which they used to do some sidewalks to 2 middle schools and 2 elementary schools and 1 middle school. And we have we'll be submitting an application. Maybe it gets mailed tomorrow, soon anyway.
It's today.
It's today, okay. And we've applied for a sidewalk to go on Cornelius Avenue from Ray Street to Hillside Elementary. It's about 4 short blocks. We've also applied for monies to do a sidewalk on Birchwood Lane from Troy Schenectady Road down to the entrance to Birchwood Elementary. It's currently a crosswalk at the entrance to Birchwood Elementary. One of the improvements, it has 2 stop signs in front of it, but we'd like to see a push button crosswalk there in addition to the sidewalk. We've also applied as part of this grant for money to do 1 block on Palmer Avenue between Story Avenue and Grand Boulevard that will be assistance to students at Washington Van Antwerp Middle School. And the school district will be in about 3 more years, I think. All 5th and 6th graders will be attending Van Antwerp, and eventually all 7th and 8th graders should be going to Airline. So the town board had a public hearing at the last meeting on July the 25th, where they heard input from the public, and they drafted a resolution essentially authorizing our town staff to submit this grant to New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And so they have the authority to do that. And we have assisted our grant writer, assisted the application, folks on Complete Streets Committee, by getting some letters of support from the school district, also getting some data on the number of pedestrians that attend these schools and the number of parents that drop their children off at these schools. We've also gotten letters from parents who are supportive of this and have indicated safety concerns at all these schools that would weigh heavily on their minds to get a sidewalk in place. And generally tried to be responsive to our grant writer at Barton and Judas and the town to get data that they need to fill in the grant, and we're hopeful that we will receive it. The resolution also pointed out that it's only a 50% match. It'd be nice if it were just a 20% match, but it's a 50% match, and so it's important for the town board to know that if we are successful in getting this money, that they'll have to find some the other part of that, and some of that may be other projects that are kind of close to these schools, and we're also hopeful that use of staff, allocation of staff time by the town to design features and other work that we're doing would also be counted against the 50% match. But I think it's really a positive step. It's encouraging to Complete Streets Committee that the town board is going to make a move to spend some town money on some sidewalks to schools. It's a first step in doing that, and so it's good that the town board is standing behind their work and the committee, and it's standing really behind safety. And they've also endorsed our priority letters that we obviously have lots of priorities for state, county, and school district, but we decided in the committee that we were going to pick our top 3 priorities to each of those groups and put those together in a letter, and the town board, the town supervisors joined us in endorsing those. So I guess at this point we've done our work, put a stamp on and mailed it out, and we hopefully.
Yeah. I actually haven't gotten confirmation that it's been submitted, but the grant writer is submitting it, so it should be submitted like within the hour, I believe.
Okay.
And then just, I don't know if you guys saw these. These are the maps that the grant writer made for submitting to the grant. So, just sort of nice to see everything that we talked about on paper. Take a look at them, see what you think. I know Bill has worked pretty hard going up and down and talking to people on these streets. Drummed up a lot of letters of support, also drummed up some concerns, especially in the Birchwood Ave area. So I've met with a couple residents in the Birchwood Ave area, like just following up on some of their concerns. I think just as a note, anybody who's listening, like these are all very conceptual. There's a lot, I think anytime a sidewalk goes in, you'll get a lot of concern from the person who is getting the sidewalk. So if we are successful in this grant application, like we have full intention to bring engineers out there, to look at the trees, to work with every individual homeowner to make sure that we can hopefully get everybody okay with the sidewalk going in front of their house. I do have to say, the majority of people were very positive. I'm very thankful for that. That's a change that's happened in planning over time. It used to be very controversial to put in sidewalks. So to have, the numbers that Bill found, 70, 80, 85% support on a sidewalk is really nice. And we're not downplaying at all the 10 to 20% of people who are concerned, but I just want to make sure we put on record that if we are successful, we will 100% work with all of those people and make sure that they've got input. So, did anybody have anything else they want to say on that?
Just as one short footnote on Birchwood Lane that we have the map that was up, but east of Birchwood Lane, there are a lot of homes that houses over there. And I don't know if this map goes further to the east, but there are even some homes that are not in the town of Niskuna, but they may be in Colony, but largely it's a pool of people that may have children, elementary school age children that would be attending Birchwood. And so they are less high traffic volume streets, but if you had a parent willing to walk, they can walk on streets that would get them up to Oak Tree Lane, which is very close to the crosswalk at Birchwood Elementary. So kind of look at the catchment area there. Having a sidewalk on Birchwood Lane will be helpful to those parents being able to walk safely to Birchwood Elementary, and even some parents that may be on the other side of Troy Road, that if they use the crosswalk at Birchwood Lane or on the sidewalks on Route 7, would have a safe way of getting to the school. Yeah, so that's good. And the same for Cornelius. There are many homes around there. It's a fairly dense area, so people would be able to use it. And I guess one point that I've made to homeowners and the public that, we do have global warming that's on us, and we have to start reducing consumption of fossil fuels. And we have two examples here of folks that have been taking the bus for a long time that inspire the rest of us. But the Complete Streets Committee and the town, the school district, we can't really encourage parents to have their children walk or bike to school if the healthy infrastructure is not in place. If we wouldn't put our own children on the roads that are not safe to get to the school, we can't ask other people to do the same. And so we've got to make sure the healthy infrastructure is in place, and it's not cheap to do. So I think these are good projects and will be well received. And I know that having worked on sidewalks for really 20 years in the town, that people are worried about trees, worried about having to shovel snow, kind of looking at them. But sometimes when the sidewalk is there, it's a resource for older people to walk around the neighborhood. It's a resource to get kids to school. They're glad to see it there, and it's a good thing. So it's a little hard in the beginning, but generally sometimes good things.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I know as far as like bike paths used to go, people felt like they were inviting the ne'er-do-wells into their neighborhood. There's been planning study after planning study that showed that's not the case, but just over time, people have realized that that's not the case. And now there's a lot of joy when a multi-use path comes mostly to a neighborhood. And the same is true of sidewalks. I think sometimes it can initially be difficult to get them in, but once they're in, even the people who are opposed to them usually end up enjoying them. But I'm not downplaying concerns at all. We will definitely work with everybody on the concerns.
And I guess just the other point, I mean, there is a pool of money there that the state has with New York State DEC. We pay our state and federal taxes into that program. If we don't apply for the money, then our neighbors that are aggressive about filing grants, they get the money and they're doing things to fix up their towns. And we have needs just the same as other communities. And so it's good for us to turn in applications. Anyway, Tess or Jim, any thoughts on our application to get sidewalks for the schools? Or
I'm delighted it went in, and those are key areas. So good work, everyone. Good work, everyone.
okay, any further thoughts on grants to get sidewalks? Okay, if not, let's move on to the next item, our town comprehensive plan. I don't know what, well, a couple things. I do have a handout that I provided, and I did send the Bethlehem one that Catherine Kuzman and Carla have both done a 2-page kind of a start on the introduction to Chapter 7 of the Niskuna Comprehensive Plan, and we have a comprehensive plan committee that's working on a draft comprehensive plan for Niskuna Plan 2023, which will be adopted by the town board once it's completed and they've had a chance to review it. But we have been looking at Chapter 7, and the town's comprehensive plan committee has said they would be welcome to taking a look at some input that we have on that. And if we have some thoughts or some recommendations, or willing to send along a rough draft for them to take a look at, we'd be happy to look at it. And Carla Dougal, who's sitting here, mentioned that she had looked at the Colony or the Bethlehem 2022 town plan. And so I just pulled out the chapters, the discussion on transportation. And I haven't had a chance to read them through carefully, but they do articulate goals. And then they have some steps to address those goals. And they have, some charts where they have some specific items in there about traffic calming measures, and certainly having a bike and pedestrian committee, which would be our job here. But would you like to say something about the Bethlehem committee?
It's hugely different.
Yeah.
It's like they took 4 years to do it with lots of public feedback at every, like they went into the communities and sort of, I think they identified people to be on the comprehensive plan. And then they did like pop-up tents at community events. They did meetings, and then they developed their like key principles that they were going to look at, and goals and objectives. And like transportation is sort of integrated within all those goals and objectives. Like there in a few of them anyway, it pops up. It's not like its own entity. I saw it, like, have they put out a survey for the comp plan already? Is that what that?
We're finalizing the questions. We were gonna put them out on the Google platform, but when the logo committee put their survey out on the Google platform, it's actually quite hard to synthesize the answers, and they only had 4 questions, and we have like 20. Okay, so we're migrating ours over to SurveyMonkey, and then we're gonna put ours out.
Okay. And chapter 7, see, they have chapter 7, I mean, it's very technical, and like it's a lot of gathering of data for like sort of the transportation engineer. Like, I mean, you could maybe try for me to do something like that. It would take months of.
I guess what I thought was helpful was that in some sense we can benefit from what they learned, that if there are some recommendations that they had in their plan, we can at least take a look at those to see if there are things in there that we think would be appropriate to look at in this unit as well. And if they have some specific things to achieve those goals. And
well, they came up with like 6 principles that they got from the public. And so in those principles, it's what they defined as important in their community. So you couldn't really take that template and just move it into our
we couldn't.
community. And
could you say just a little bit about the thoughts that you and Carla, we kind of actually even discussed in our first comp plan committee discussion about kind of the emphasis that we bring to chapter 7 that's not just cars. And I think before there was, well, we do discuss pedestrian, it is in chapter 7, but one of the things that we I think want to kind of focus on is that transportation is not just about cars, that taxpayers pay their taxes, pedestrians and bicyclists, people that ride the bus, and even cars. And we have our Complete Streets Committee made good recommendations to be helpful to auto traffic as well too. Like we recommended roundabout at River Road and Rosendale Road instead of just signs, and certainly at the Rexford Bridge, a roundabout there that's been pretty successful, and we've had other recommendations like on the core and other things, but I think in our emphasis, just like our map, we're kind of focused on bike and pedestrian movement as well as cars. And so we want that reflected in chapter 7.
Yeah. So you and Catherine did start an intro, right? Which
Yeah,
is what's that?
Catherine basically
Did
did
the
the bulk of
intro.
that. I just have 2 comments, but
Yeah.
she went ahead with that. I've been just looking at, I mean, even looking at their transportation chapter, they do talk about bicycles and sidewalks, and then complete streets, which they've been complete streets community since like 2000. I think it's sort of a side note, like under sidewalks, like it's, and then they have a little section there in the transportation. It's under the sidewalks. So I mean, but it's, I mean, it's very important, but I that's why I kind of like to go through and I'm not sure that we want to. I don't know if you're trying to, do you want us to organize?
Well, I think
everything? 'Cause you've
we
done
need.
a lot of work, like all your goals and everything, that.
Well, I think we have a lot of pieces that would be helpful to the chapter, that we have some detailed goals, some of which are reflected here, but we also have the survey that we did 2 years ago. And then there'll be some questions in the survey the comp plan committee is doing. And, we also, some part of our, recommendations reflect things that we need to get fixed in Niskuna, which, we can say about. And then we also have had some wins, I think it's fair to say, that we want to mention in our plan. And then I think we kind of, I don't know if you have your notes on that. We had 4 things that we wanted to kind of stress: safety, connectivity, accessibility.
That's what the subcommittee came up with.
Yeah, so, but we want our subcommittee to basically meet again, I think, to, I think, just kind of maybe just do a little outline of the structure of the transportation chapter. And
The transportation. Or like, so
yeah, just the transportation.
based on our previous plan, or just based on the previous plan, like, and is that sort of
Well,
how you want it to?
No, in other words, we're going to look at the previous chapter 7, and there'll be some things we want to keep, like there's a chart in there that's got some goals. So some of them we're going to drop because they've either been accomplished or and make that new. But I think you and Catherine have got us off to a good start on an introduction, and
Yeah, and some of the
we-
things like
we
we talked
wanna-
about is like, I think in our complete streets, or in the transportation chapter of the comprehensive plan right now, like it's citing studies from the 90s or something like that. So I think we talked about carving that stuff out. That gives us space to add some more complete streets elements in there. But I think it's good to look at Bethlehem. The comprehensive plan actually looks at Bethlehem. Our Niskuna comprehensive plan looks at Bethlehem's a lot, one of our reference documents. So it is really good to look at it and take some of the things that they've figured out, from it. But I think we want to keep the structure of ours the same, because we're not restructuring every chapter. And I think one thing that we said is that we don't want our chapter to not be harmonious with all of the other
Right.
chapters.
Right.
So you definitely would be working within the skeleton of what exists, but sort of like removing old stuff that's not really relevant anymore and adding in a lot of the complete streets work that we've done in the last 10 years.
So identifying streets like Route 7 would become the new ball town, kind of in a different context.
Yeah,
And
like
safety and,
yeah, absolutely. Like like if they're referencing a study from the 90s on traffic on Balltown Road, then cut that out and then put in, here's the safety issues we have on Route 7 and here's our priorities for them. You know what I mean?
I think some part of that is, if there isn't a study on Route 7, we certainly can talk about some of the problems that, we're having, which would be really, even if we just took a look at the three state roads in Niskuna, Balltown Road and Route 7 and State Street. Well, what are the issues that we're having? And some of the things on Balltown Road that were true in the 90s might still be true today, but we want to rewrite that, and because some things have probably gotten better, like that Rexford Bridge has been built and there's a turnaround there, and so there's been some progress there. And now we have things on Route 7, yet another one. And then we have, I know that Bethlehem kind of identifies, here's the mileage of state roads, mileage of county roads, mileage of town roads. So we could put in the mileage of county roads, and certainly there'll be some things with county roads, like for instance, Knott's gotten some better because we have sidewalks, we have the improvements of the co-op block. We now have some push button crosswalks in front of the co-op, and even Rosendale Road and River Road, county roads, both better with a turnaround there. And we have some push button crosswalks now to get across River Road at the Kelps property and St. Joseph's Drive. And so, there are still some issues with our county roads, but some things that have been done that are good things. And then some issues with town roads. And so those were what we be doing. And we kind of, you have your notes. What were the kind of four principal things?
We don't have them, but I don't think we have to derail the whole
No,
complete street meeting on it. But
Yeah.
I feel like what you said, I think is a good next step is have another subcommittee.
Right.
So we can schedule another subcommittee meeting, and then maybe divvy up some next steps on that. And then I think the other thing in the agenda was, did we want to meet with the comprehensive plan committee in August or September? But I'm thinking September.
I think September. You're not going to have a first draft by August 15 or whatever. That's too quick. But we might by. And a lot of us have been sort of consumed with getting our DEC grant out the door. So now we can now spend a little time on the plan. And in sharing Bethlehem doesn't mean we're just going to take that template. I just thought like they have goals and then some specifics to get there, which is what we have in our plan too, that we do articulate like we have, here's an objective and some implementation tasks. And then I think what we suggested here is that some of the things in our Excel spreadsheet, we have specifics, they have some specifics too, which we could either move to an appendix or try to weave them into the transportation chapter. So it's not like we don't have some detailed things. If we're talking about, say, Troy Road, that we have some suggestions, which are, we need some more crosswalks. We might not even need some raised pedestrian medians on Troy Road so people can get across the street, and other things of that nature, and some things with county roads that we can put in sort of that. And these would be, I think, not in concrete things. They're just, here's a goal. We'd like to see the town more bike and pedestrian friendly. There's some thoughts that we have that would contribute to doing that. And we'd certainly put those in. And I do think, like, the answers to the questions in our survey, we've got those to use as, it's not just us dreaming things up. Our input on these are stuff that we've got from citizens in doing the surveys.
So I think I only have question 14, but
Yeah.
you have other open-ended questions.
Yeah, I think we had 6 questions that were open-ended and part of that was just how many people are doing more walking, and there were more walkers, but in looking at some nationwide data, people that are inclined to speed, their habits got worse because there were fewer cars on the road. So just like Troy Road, it's like, or any roads, it's much more wide open. I can go faster now and do so safer, but they can't do so more safely. The speed kills. And so
It's good to know that you're using the same, I mean, just to know, because I think we weren't sure if they were using the same format as the previous one, or.
yeah, I think we want to dump stuff that's way out of date. We kind of want to stay with this format. On some of the goals things, I mean, we might want to change a couple of those out, meaning, Bethlehem's got a good idea. This goal would fit in our town, so we'll put it here. We'll look at some things they were gonna do to get to that goal, see if any fit here. But, you know, we could certainly do some of those. And we have lots of concrete ideas of our own that I think we could fit into doing that. So I think, the comp plan committee have kind of given us a green light to say, give a shot at a first draft and we'll take a look at it. And so that's important. And I do think that both you and Catherine, it's a good first step with the introduction in that, you know, the emphasis is not just cars, it's on really moving about the town for everybody that lives in the town, which are pedestrians, bicyclists, motorcyclists, people who ride the bus, everybody. And the whole concept of a sharing the road is kind of a change in mentality that we've all paid taxes on these roads and, you know, we're entitled to use them, and everybody's got to learn to kind of share the road a bit, that motorists have got to be aware that they're pedestrians and bicyclists, got to be aware and watch out for them. And really pedestrians and bicyclists got to look out for the cars, got to look out.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else want to say anything on the town comp plan before we? But
I'll just share that, I have more availability, so send the email to me too, and I'll try to make the meeting, the subcommittee meeting.
sure. And I believe our subcommittee at this, Jim Levy, Tess Healy, Bill Chapman, Carl Duggal, and Catherine Crispin. And I think Catherine is our chair of the subcommittee on that.
Perhaps we could come up with a way to bring it into sections and delegate them.
Okay. I will, would you guys like a paper copy of Bethlehem? I sent it to you electronically, but I can drop one off at your house after the meeting if paper's handy. And I like paper. It's hard to mark on the screen on your computer. Highlight something that they did in Bethlehem that you liked. And so.
Well, Jim said no. Do you want to
Jim's
paper
no.
cake?
I would take you up on that, Bill.
I'll drop it off at your home.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's very kind.
Anything else on, anybody else have any further thoughts that they want to offer on the comp plan at this juncture? Okay, let's move on to Hillside Avenue Tree Planting Project. And also discussion of our only half-finished side path on Hillside Avenue.
Well, the tree council is just working on a planting project in some areas of Hillside, kind of in the 6-7 region on the map that Bill handed out.
Can you pull that up? I mean, do you have Clark's email or not?
I don't pull that up.
This map, Clark Henry sent you that email.
Maybe. So I
Or
think
not.
Bill just wanted to remind me that I'm going to be doing outreach at least to 6 and 7. I am happy to ask about a plan while I'm working out there. I never mind doing that.
Basically, what I did was, I have to send this to everybody. The properties, there are 14 properties on Hillside Avenue from Providence to Banker. And this is a really kind of a good possible connection way for folks in Niskayuna, certainly folks in Old Niskayuna, to be able to get to the town community center and even get to the hike and bike path. If you come down really Hillside Avenue, or you take Dean Street and then go a little ways on Providence, you get over to Hillside Avenue, and we do have 6 properties that have actually put the side path in. And if we can see the map again, yeah, so 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, the side path segments are there. And number 11 is Willowbrook Apartments, and I'm really surprised the planning board gave them the green light, or they accepted the roads without getting a side path there. And I'm hopeful there might be a clause somewhere that they agreed to put the side path in and just haven't done it yet. And I'm not sure what the next step is, but if you look along there, you see number 10 is National Grid, and they've been generally, when I was on Metroplex, they're very supportive of sidewalks. And I think it's just if we had a letter from the supervisor to National Grid, we send it to their community relations department saying, gee, we're working on this side path. We'd like to get that on number 10. And then if you move down, we have the Army Reserve Center. And I know they may have some concerns about people being too close, but
It's in the parking lot right there.
I think it'd
That's the far.
yeah, it's far out close to Hillside Avenue, and it's just green, just grassy area between the parking lot and the road. So we'd be asking them to do a side path, and the Army probably has money where, you know, they want to be good neighbors too, and would do that. Then number 5 is the school district, and we've approached them about asphalt pathways to each of the school campuses where they've been agreeable to taking a look at that. And so this is just another asphalt pathway that, you know, conceivably we might use for access to Craig Elementary or whatever, but it's a short piece on number 5 there is the school bus garage. So that's another institution. So we really have 3 institutional users there in National Grid, the US Army Reserve Center, and the school district, where we'd ask them to do their segment. And then 1 and 4 are both the Niskayuna Garden Apartments. And you know, I don't know whether, I mean, I presume it's fair to ask them if they would consider, you know, a side path there. 2 and 3 are both individual homes, and I don't know, maybe the town would have some modality, or if they were agreeable, we could find the money somewhere to put in some stone and put an asphalt. I looked at it today, and it's not like there's a drainage ditch or anything there. They're just grass lawns, and so if we could get across that. But, you know, the nice feature about this is once you get here on Banker, if we could go to a little bit to the west, and then maybe, I guess we can't see it on this, but, you know, the Mohawk Hudson bike path is, if you go on Ward Lane there to the left, or you go over and if you go down Hillside Avenue, you get to Banker, you can go down Ravine Road that gets you to Anthony Street or North End, or, you know, Hillside is an awfully steep road to go down. You might have to get off your bike and walk it part of the way. But, you know, once you get down to Aqueduct, then it's just really a 1-block segment that gets you over to North End Avenue, which connects you around to Anthony and to the Mohawk Hudson bike path. So you're really at the west end of town. You can get from Old Niskayuna on this road and get to the community center. You can just ride along Banker. We could mark that with a bike lane or whatever, and it would take you all the way down to the community center. So you get access to the swimming pool and football fields and soccer fields and everything, the hiking area that's now at the community center, as well as the community center building itself. And then you can also get access to North Hudson bike path. So I just think we really should just send a letter. I mean, I don't see any harm in sending a letter, and these are large institutional folks. Then they could put the money in the budget to do a sidewalk or an asphalt side path, much less expensive than the sidewalk. But
Yeah.
and then how are the trees fit? Are the
So-
trees on the other side or trees on both
They're
sides? or
both sides.
both sides?
I am reaching out to the Army Reserve Center anyway, so I'm happy to bring up a side path with them. The grant that we're actually using for the trees is a National Grid grant, so I'm happy to work out, just like start up a conversation with them. I right now, just want to focus on those two so that I am sort of like harmonizing the work that I have to do anyway. Down the road though, I don't think that it would be terrible to send the letters out. But like right now, I just think it's a good reminder and this is a great map. I appreciate you doing it. I actually like your comments on here even more than those. But I'll work on 6 and 10 for the time being while I'm working on the tree council project.
Now, Superintendent Mamatay has been awfully supportive, providing us data for our grant and also giving us, overall support for
Yeah,
look at
let
school
me,
campuses.
this
I
is
mean,
just my opinion and you
yeah.
guys can jump in and I'd love to hear from more too.
Sure.
Is that like, I like to push a little and then let that pushing kind of work its way and then push a little more. And I feel like we've been asking for a lot for the school district. So, I mean, my preference is to harmonize what I'm doing out there at the tree council right now with the Army Reserve Center and the National Guard.
So I don't mind asking
I
the
would-
school. I mean, they've done some good things. I know that they're working on some things, but to me, it's a letter, so at least it gets it on their radar that,
But I would like to hear from other members. I
Sure.
think that you can
Laura, I have a question.
Yeah, I think you can over inundate. I'm worried sometimes about asking to the point where you're almost hurting like the complete streets because you ask for too much. And so I'm just like, I just want to balance a little bit. Like we have been asking a lot and I don't disagree that we shouldn't just, keep going. But if we're creating fatigue, I think that sometimes it's okay to redirect to other people as well. Go ahead, Tess.
Is there a possibility that they could come up with an estimate of how much the entire project would cost and just say proportionally, could you each support paying for your own section, but then it was only one crew who did it all together, because that would be more cost effective.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a possibility. It just comes down to like if the town is coming up with that estimate and then doing that outreach, it's really just allocating staff. And I'm being honest with you guys, we have allocated a ton of time right now to complete streets, and we're going to have to shift to a couple other things to come back. Like this grant has taken a lot of staff time. I've got updates on Plum Street, like actually just reaching out to the state and harassing them almost every other day on Route 7 is taking up a lot of staff time. So I get that these side paths make complete and utter sense, and I'm 100% behind them. But we don't always have the staff time to do every single thing on our list. So I just like want to make sure that we're prioritizing what we do, right? Because I can't do it all. And we
Right.
have been working really hard and we have a lot of successful things. So I think that like I would like to see where our grant goes, like finish up the Plum Street sidewalks and some of the things that I'm doing. And I think this would be a really good next like project for the complete streets, to be working on with the letters and the outreach, because I don't think it would be terrible. And I think that working with the Army Reserve and National Guard while I'm out there anyway to see what I can get them to do is great. And then we could build on that. We could build on the, getting the ball rolling.
yes. And I think.
I agree.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I agree with what Laura's saying. There's an echo here, at least on my end. But I think we also heard from the school district, the investment coming from other sides as well. And I think our priorities are the school campuses right now. And this would be kind of a later priority.
Personally, I'm of the opinion that with this current grant being packaged up and sent out, we already have 2 projects, like you said, that we're working with the school district, and it's been a process. And I know that Complete Streets has been working with the district for a long time to get this action, and it took action by their board in order to get like concrete things in place. And so like I'm very happy to see that we're moving forward in the application process for Birchwood and Hillside. This to me is less about the school district. They just happen to own that property. And so like I agree, that for right now there could be some fatigue with going after them about something else. And like it's not like we're not trying to get this done this year or next year. It just in my estimation, to me, this looks like a bit like a part of a bigger master plan for the town. Like I don't want to think about like one house, that house. I want to think about a path that goes from Hillside through Providence all the way to, and one that goes on Van Antwerp all the way from the GE Circle and the bike path all the way to Van Antwerp and all the way to Balltown, like that kind of stuff. Like that's where this looks like it belongs to.
And I guess I kind of focused a little bit on the institutional segments here on the assumption that we may not have to use town money, that National Grid has been supportive of sidewalks. They might be a yes if we just reach out to them.
Yeah.
And the Army Reserve Center might be the same way. And, you know, I agree waiting on the school, but it's possible. I was just thinking, well, you know, we ask them, send a letter, they'll say, well, we're going to think about it. And maybe it's not this year's budget, but down the road. And so just trying to get as many segments done. So
Yeah.
then you get to the point where you talk to Willowbrook or you talk to Niskuna Garden Apartments to say, look, we're 80% done. And we'd even like you with your apartment residents to be able to use Hillside Avenue, to use the side paths. Because I mean, I do bike that road and it's a busy road. It has a lot of trucks on it. And when you're on your bike and you're getting passed by a dump truck or a cement truck, I mean, there's no shoulder to go on. If
That's
your
why-
bike goes off the edge or
Why all
whatever.
of this unit can't go to the town pool.
Yeah.
Well, but that's part of the goal. If you get us down to Dean, or you can just take Hillside Avenue, you can take Hillside, use the push button crosswalk, to go across at Providence, then you're on the bike path all the way to get to the town pool. And all we got to do is mark Banker with a bike lane to get all the way to the town
You
pool. So,
don't need to convince anybody at the table.
Okay,
Like, we're all 100% in agreement with you.
I would just hate to, I would hate to cause some teeth gnashing, like, oh, okay, this is something we can do, whether it's favorable or not on their end for something we're not ready to. You know what I mean? And to just give someone like, like.
well, it's a
they're
prayer.
asking
It's
again,
a
you know?
prayer, not a knife. It's just like a prayer. Hey, we're trying to get this
Yeah.
finished and
But Bill, sometimes I do get pushback that we push a little too hard. So I'm just putting it out there. I want to make sure that we prioritize what we're asking for and we're timely
yes.
when we ask them for it.
Well, I'm willing to chill out. If the community says, Bill, it's time to chill out. And I've often said, Laura, you got to start bringing duct tape to this street. Just jump over, sit on this guy and take this.
So I say, let's keep this on the back burner. Like, I love this. I love this so much. Like, my kids can't go to the pool without us. Like, that's why. So like, if we have this kind of moving in the background, we focus on like the bike lanes and getting things we've already invested a lot of time into and all that stuff that people have been ready to move on for a year and a half. And if we can get that, like, that feels ready to, like, so much more ready to push out, you know what I mean? And that's another thing we can, not that I want to check things off the list, but you know, we can move away from it, you know?
I'm happy to start with National Grid and the Army and see where we go. from there.
Yeah.
And Willowbrook. I mean, do we at least look at the plan to see, did the town ask them for a side path as part of the regional?
It was actually built in 1971 or something. So no. I know Willowbrook was later.
Yep.
No, I'm not 100% sure about Willowbrook, but no, it's definitely not in the plans.
Okay. Anyone else, a thought on this before we move on? Hillside Avenue. Okay. I'd like to move on to Wyoming Avenue. And, Shay and I scheduled a meeting with the police chief to discuss Wyoming Avenue. And we spent the whole meeting talking about Route 7. But the chief of police is interested in Wyoming, and he did ask me for email messages and you know, other conversations we had with residents out there. And I'm delinquent in getting them to him, but I told him that I would. And he actually, on his own initiative, has talked to a few folks. And I think Laura's point at one of our earlier meetings that she felt like if the town were to take a look at Wyoming and Baker, and really they're two connecting streets. There's a lot of auto traffic on Wyoming, which the residents have reported, and there's quite a bit of traffic on Baker as well. That the police department is listening to residents who said we'd at least want to have a public hearing to see what folks have to say, and that as you come down Wyoming, the kind of right side, it kind of eases around. And there's just not a sharp T stop right there when you come down. And that, you know, one possible improvement would be to kind of narrow the intersection or make it a clearer key with Wyoming coming to Baker, switching from the yield to a stop. And again, in terms of traffic movement, I feel like there are lots of other smaller streets there that have stop signs. This has a yield, but I just don't think the yield really does regulates the traffic to the extent that it should be. And even just sitting out there looking at it, I was impressed myself with how many pedestrians there are. There's really a danger to walkers with people coming off of Wyoming and Baker too fast. So we're going to have a public hearing on it. It'll be August 22nd. I'm sure residents on the street will come out and see what they have to say. And this is something Complete Streets, I think, is
just
recommended.
to remind
the
everybody, we
department and-
actually made a recommendation for a stop sign there. So I think that more data had to be looked at. But you know, it's something that we've recommended, and it's nice to see at least the town board looking at it now.
And just a couple other things, the Dean Street where you stop at Dean and Nutt, it's got the yellow signs that says the cross traffic does not stop. Is that what the yellow sign? I think it was through traffic does not stop. You'll see them on Dean.
Cross traffic.
Cross traffic does not stop.
Yeah, cross traffic does not stop. So one recommendation that I would make is that at Lexington Parkway, where you have Baker and Lex, I mean, I actually think it would make sense for the town to do an analysis of Lex and Baker to see if a stop sign is warranted there for. And so perhaps I would do, but at the very least, in the short run, you're crossing two lanes. I mean, Lexington's got a lane east and a lane west that it would help, but I think all the town highway department have to do is just go out and put the signs up. It says cross traffic does not stop. And that. Anyway, if people have thoughts, I mean, they can offer them at the meeting on August 22nd. I'm sure having folks will be there. Okay. Anything else? Either Tess or Jim, any comment on Wyoming Ave? Nope. Okay. Let's move on to discussion items, the crosswalk at St. Joseph's and River Road.
So that's just a quick update. I know I've just been trying to keep you guys up to date. The crosswalk has been painted, but there's no rapid flashing beacon installed yet. It was misordered by the contractor and then reordered, but it had a 6-week lead time. So I believe that we're getting it August 31st or something like, no, it's a little bit earlier than that. August 3rd. It's really close to coming in. And then I've got to get them out there to install it again. But crosswalks haven't had as much problems with people parking there when they're not supposed to. And the blinky lights should be in, I'm hoping, in 2 weeks. That's the update on that one. Plum Street, the last meeting I let you guys know that I was trying to put the funding pieces together. I was able to do that. Bringing it up at the Economic Development Committee meeting next Friday. And I am hopeful that we will be able to award that at the end of August. The only downside to the time frame is that if they're able to do it this fall, which they do want to try, is that they're going to be doing it during when the school is in session. But it is a small piece of sidewalk, so hopefully everybody will be able to survive for a week or two during construction.
If this counts toward our match with the DEC,
It won't.
I'm quite certain.
I'm quite certain.
I thought Bob Murphy said that it couldn't.
So it could if you waited to do it. But
What
it,
about that?
I don't want to wait. I have the money now. There's no certainty that we'll get the grant. So and it's not really that advantageous to us because yes, it counts towards our match, but it also adds the other 50% in, right? So like if we're applying for 1.1 $1.1 million, and then we add in this, the $80,000 for the Plum Street sidewalk. That just bumps the total grant up to 1 point whatever, and then you have to divide it in half. So I would 100% recommend that if we have the money now and I've got the contractor and the comptroller and the highway guy on my side, then we should definitely just put the sidewalk in.
Before you thought we were ready to roll on it and just right?
So what the problem was, which is why it took me so long to figure it out, is that some of the money that was allocated to the Upper Union Street grant didn't roll forward from last year. And so at the last town board meeting, we had to do a budget mod. They were gracious enough to roll that money forward. They did not have to, but they were gracious enough to roll that money forward so that I didn't need to take any of this year's money to pay for that grant. And that is what makes it allowable for the Plum Street sidewalk to be funded.
Great. Thanks for doing all that work.
It was actually largely the comptroller, so if you guys see her in the hallway.
Give a shout out to Elizabeth and thank you.
Yes, she did a lot of work on that.
I would also like to just add that it was very helpful on the DEC grant for the sidewalks.
Yes, she has been. Yep, she even,
So she did a lot of work. If the town hadn't come up with, $500,000 as part of our match, that she was going to find some. This is some help find that money. So
Great.
yes,
Ms. Greenwood has been.
she really has. She also pre-read some of the grant answers before they went in and gave her 2 cents on them, which I've never seen a comptroller do. So she is definitely a help to the complete sheets to me.
So,
Yes, she does. It's cool.
Okay, Plum Street sidewalk. Let's move on to our. Let me see. I do want to talk about the demonstration project, and are you going to talk to the county about Knott Street and the segment of sidewalk from Baker to Lex, or is that?
Oh,
should we
yes.
save that?
No, I mean, I have
Do
reached
that
out.
later.
I reached out to them about it again when I was meeting with them on Grand Boulevard, and I resent them the drawings. But I only resent them the drawings like a week ago.
I mean, I would be happy to. I had a nice conversation with, I think it's Peter Knutson, who works for the county, and and find him. I'm kind of going to try to
Yeah,
work with the mayor's office.
Mayor McCarthy lives like a block and a half.
And I was
saying,
He has indicated that if you get the money to do the Niskuna section, that he'll find the money to do it in the city. So, and if the county is willing to say, well, we're gonna find some money to get this finished. I'm just hopeful that's. those pieces.
it's like these little missing pieces of the puzzle that drive me crazy. A lot of people, I think, probably for you guys too, like you're, less of it on the cars. It's like you're walking down a major street and you're on a sidewalk, and all of a sudden you're in the road.
and you're in the road on a hill crest. It should be terrible. Yeah,
And that could be 20 different places in this.
yeah. And I think we talked about this before, but that block is not done because it's on the line between the county and the city of Schenectady. But
We're gonna get
so
there.
I did, and I wanted to make sure that they had everything. So I sent them the engineering drawings, and I also sent them the bids. And on average, that section of sidewalk, we had 3 bids on it, was $135,000. So anyway, that's about what they have to. Well,
If we-
it's not years ago.
50 years ago, when we first did it, it would have been easy. It would have been a nothing during it.
Well, I mean, in today's money, it would have been a nothing burger, but
Laura, is that the
Continue.
Baker to
That's
Lex?
the big one.
sorry, what, Jim?
Was that
Yeah.
for the distance of Baker to Lex?
This is the Baker to Lex.
Unit.
Yeah.
Part.
That was 1 year ago. The bids came in, and the average was 135,000 for that. And that's not the whole thing. That's actually just the Niskuna side.
Yeah.
But that's because we need retaining walls and stuff because the grade there is so hard. It's tough. But the city of Schenectady has said if the county puts in their side, then they will put in their side. They have the easy side. Theirs is pretty flat. Ours, you have to do retaining walls, and the driveways that go from Knott to the homes are very steep, and you have to and it has to be all ADA compliant. So you have to get the sidewalks flat, so the driveways go up across the sidewalk, and then it becomes even more steep. And when they were designing it, they were even having a hard time trying to make sure that if they were gonna change those driveways, that the cars weren't gonna bottom out when they were going over the sidewalk and then up the driveway again. That's how steep it is.
But we're still have it on the agenda. as
Yeah.
talking to Tony about. Our demonstration project on Grand Boulevard, I did get this from Andrew Millspaw. He talks about a 7-foot bike lane. He kind of sent a Complete Streets demonstration project, a flyer, and sent this to Laura and I today. I thought we had like a 10-foot bike lane, that we had enough room.
No, actually, so sorry, some background noise. I went back out and measured it right before this meeting, and has 18 feet of pavement. This is looking at 20, so we can't do 7 and 13.
One more.
When I put out that original last year or 2 years ago, it was 6-12 without a buffer. But regardless of what you want to do, we have 18 feet of pavement to use.
And I think the second concept of be the 6 and 12 is the one that the highway department was okay with. Our first concept, it was 10 and then a buffer and then a 6-foot, right? I think. And they thought the travel lane was too small.
Well, I'd prefer a 10-foot travel lane. Slow down vehicles, but it gets a lot of pushback typically not.
So slash Grand Boulevard is because of the last meeting that I was having with Schenectady County. Schenectady County did get funding to put Grand Boulevard, bike lanes on Grand Boulevard. So we are going to get bike lanes on Grand Boulevard. But they are actually talking about, and Grand Boulevard, the situation is a lot worse than Lexington, but they're talking about trying to figure out where they can put the bike lanes to make those intersections across the median as best as they can be. And so they had a couple concepts, some things that we have talked about here. You know, so all design concepts are on the table right now: a right bike lane, a left bike lane, and a bike lane through the median. And one of the things they've talked about doing is a demonstration project. So I don't know if it's worth it for us to actually move ourselves to Grand Boulevard and work with them on a demonstration project and see how it works.
Practice.
Or if we want to just keep working on Lexington and see how it goes. We've done a lot of work on Lexington. And I didn't even bring it up. I was just sitting at the meeting with them. Their consultants brought up demonstrating, they're going to do a lot of outreach, and they do also think, like, because one of the things that we have talked about is if we put the bike lane in the middle, like if maybe we change some of the intersections for safety. And so the question was, do we want to do a demonstration project out there? They may end up doing a demonstration project.
And those are people that are being paid for this, right?
Correct.
Yes, it'd be great to shadow this.
And so
Well,
and here's their schedule. So, I mean, they want to get to design by October. So if they're going to do a demonstration project and we want to help, I mean, it's going to be a pretty aggressive schedule to get out there. They can do a lot of the outreach, but we can also do the help and then see. I don't know. It's up to you guys. We could do our own thing still too, but they're definitely going to be working on Grand Boulevard and are proposing potentially demonstrating a couple of ideas because
I know some neighbors may not be sure. I mean, even Peter Knudsen said that some people in the neighborhood do like to park on Grand Boulevard. It's a county road, so
which
they
is why
they may
have
be
to
saying,
take up the
and so
bike lanes.
they're not sure. Just maybe the idea of a demonstration. We don't know whether we're going to put the bike lane on the right side or put the bike lane next to the median or put the bike lane in the median.
Or do like
So,
do a parking stripe and then bike lane stripe and then
but I think we could be helpful to the county in that we're a Complete Streets Committee. If they're trying to do a demonstration project to show some things, get some neighborhood input on that, to help make a decision on what they like to do. I mean, we did get some pushback when we tried to do the chicanes on Regent Street, and so I don't want us to get a negative connotation if neighbors on Grand Boulevard are not sure. But on the other hand, if the county is saying, well, we'd like to do a project and there's some labor power that's involved, or doing some education, or we might even come out looking good by saying to neighbors, well, the county's trying to decide what they want to do, and so we're going to do some examples that get some input, get neighborhood input to see what we want to do. So
Do you think you could let your contact know that we're interested in
No,
involved?
yeah, I definitely can. Yeah.
You already talked to the residents on that super.
it's not yet.
We haven't yet.
I mean, there's a couple people that
One-
I have spoken to. Well, Jessica Kowski, who's interested in joining this committee, used to live on Lex, and she's thought it would be well received. It's a good idea. And Scott Horgan, who was the chair, he lived
I've heard
there.
a couple
He
people
thought
who
it was,
want
he wanted us to give it a try. So I think there's good response out there, but it doesn't go away. I mean, it'll be there next year too for the demonstration project.
So, Grand and Lexington to me are similar in the way that they look, but very different roads, as far as volume and the behavior of the residents, honestly. In the email, we were talking about the no parking on that to make the bike lanes effective. You're gonna get real pushback on that.
I think the
Right
county feels that as well, so they're actually trying to, the no parking is on the table, but I actually think they're trying to incorporate parking and a bike lane.
So the bike lane next.
Yeah.
Median. Okay.
Well, they
median would
actually
be
designed
tricky.
a bike lane, and they designed a bike lane on the left side of the travel lane.
Which is awesome.
And there's some advantages to that, because right now the cars that are crossing Grand Boulevard still don't really understand how it works. And so if you had two stripes going right down the median, I think it sort of creates a space where the cars are sort of like in somewhere. And then, you have that yield, oncoming traffic does not stop, but nobody sees those signs. Whereas if you made those two left lanes like very bright as they're crossing through those intersections.
Little pylons.
But wouldn't that actually, isn't that where the cars sit? They sit in the middle
Well,
and deciding, because you can't always get across Grand
No,
Boulevard. You
you-
gotta pull to the median, and then you gotta wait and go the other thing. So you need.
keep going to the median, and then you almost have a crosswalk for stop sign, right? Kind
Oh,
of. So then you're sort of gonna put your tires on where that line is, and then if you're hopefully doing a good job, look both ways and then kind of go out to the,
Could be a simple little yield for bike traffic, sign,
yeah.
like a lower height.
Yeah.
Also, do we have an opinion about
Or you
the
could,
bike lane in the middle, in the median of the grassy areas?
Blocks with multi-use benefits.
it's like creating a linear park.
The cars can be through there, wouldn't it?
So then you also have to figure out how the middle is gonna cross those, because they're already a tough place.
And then also cars that are traffic.
Right, so then, I mean, one of the things we were talking about is, okay, if you put the bike lane through the median, maybe when it gets to a intersection, you're gonna have to bring it over to one side or the other. And then have it cross there. But, yeah, I
There's
don't
an
know, all the
example.
time. Oh, go ahead,
There's an
Jim.
example, there's an example in Syracuse, Road, but they did a median bike path and a much busier corridor, and they did crossings straight through the middle. They have signage and RFPs or something like that. I'd have to find it and look at it. But it can certainly be done. It has been done elsewhere.
Yeah, because there's a lot of advantages to putting the path in the middle of the median. You could even put park benches and stuff there. Like, people already walk their dogs in there. Like, it could be very cool.
It's a missing part of the community.
Yeah,
We have space for it.
yeah.
But if
Well,
it,
what do we,
I was gonna say, if it doesn't, when we did the complete safety workshop in 2020, we found that we could do a bike lane on the left side, travel lane down the middle, and a very narrow on-street parking lane on the right. You can get everybody on that road, but it's tight.
It's true. Whereas if you could do a parking line. So you could do a parking line and it could be thick, to delineate the parking, which is gonna narrow the visual
Right.
travel lane, and then you could do a bike lane in the median, which would be the safest for anybody using that bike lane. The only thing I worry about, which we talk about too, is people getting to the bike lane, right? Because it's in the middle, so you're gonna
There's a
have,
curve.
yeah, so you're gonna have to make sure that places where people can get to the middle of the bike lane, you know.
Well, we need to decide today, we gotta go forward with Lex, or do we want to work with the county on a demonstration project on Grand Boulevard?
The county seems for right now like passive, like our involvement, if we're gonna put our energy into something. We put a lot of work into Lexington. I'm not opposed to look at it.
We got Lex, how about you, Colin?
I haven't done it, so I can't. I mean, it seems like Grand Boulevard makes more sense, but for anyone that worked on Lexington, I would get just continuing on with that.
I just think the Grand Boulevard thing, it's like someone's paying for it, someone is doing it.
True.
It's in the bag. And
You're gonna do it with or without us.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we don't do Grand,
If we don't do Grand, I'd like to
amplify the message of what's going on, because there's nothing saying that just being a resident can't check it out.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And with the bike lane, would that just be on the, like, in between the is it painted line then, or is it painted line like on both sides? Because the cars coming through, would you have a double line? Like in Philadelphia, they even have like some of the bike lanes are just highlighted in like all green, so they're very visible.
Ask them that, because I love the Highland green ones, but they said that paint gets ripped up by the plows every winter, and it's very maintenance heavy.
Okay.
And so a lot of places are getting away from the green paint, which made me really sad because I love the green paint. But they were all engineers. I was,
Okay,
I
yeah,
was
so they know.
one planner.
Okay.
But they were moving away from the green paint badly.
But it's just, so it's one line
So it would be
between,
line.
between the traffic and the bikes.
I
So
think-
the people that are coming through to, you know, from one side of the road to the next, they would just have that line between the traffic. So they really have to be careful as they're coming through, and bikes are going.
Bikes on the right side of travel, right?
So originally the grant was submitted with a travel lane, a striped bike lane, and then I believe a striped area for parking.
Okay. Well, but you're asking about the demonstration part.
Oh, they put
Right.
it towards a median, I guess. Yeah, okay. And I guess it's okay.
Do you want me to-
Yeah, can you?
Project.
Yeah, it's hard for me to share. It's hard for me to share. If you could do it, that would be great.
I think
what we did.
And I just had a thought, one reason why we might not want to move ahead with Lexington right now is if we want it to look the same as what they do on Grants.
So I was thinking too.
That's,
Although it is a different road, but if it really works to put it in the median, then maybe.
Yeah, and then the county could look at it the other way. If we got a good response on Lex, I mean, that might influence their decision what to do on Grand, so.
Oh yeah, that's the left bike lane that we looked at for.
This
yeah.
is what we designed back in 2020.
Concept.
Yep. And actually, the city of Schenectady designed that in the city of Schenectady because it helps with continuity to the city of Schenectady. So what I was really pleased with, the county actually had the city of Schenectady there, which is helpful. There's not funding currently to bring the bike lane into the city of Schenectady, but if we coordinate it with them, then it wouldn't just end at the city line. So they're hoping that whatever we do on our side, we'll be able to carry forward into city of Schenectady.
I think that,
And this concept was good for the city of Schenectady.
I think this would get the most support, because if you make that median, a lot of trees are gonna come down, and people are gonna be upset about that.
Oh, well, they were actually talking about having the path meander around the trees.
Right.
Oh, okay, that's better.
That's better.
But sometimes you still lose them when you do construction.
Yeah, just as long as it's.
So the county now is-
Right down the middle.
Yeah. Yeah, that they had that thing.
So there's three options. One would be bike lane on the left, parking on the right. Another option is you have the auto traffic in the road, then a bike lane, then parking.
Yeah.
And then option three is you'd have a traffic lane with parking to the right and the bike lane would be in the middle in the median. And so the county is unsure which of those they want to do at this juncture, or,
Looking at preliminary engineering for all three options.
okay. Now, so what would the demonstration project look like if they did one? I mean, what would
They put
they,
a path to median.
what would they do?
It's true. I'm not sure. They just threw it out there, so I'm not sure that they fully fleshed it out yet. I just heard demonstration project on Grand Boulevard, and I was like, oh well, we're doing something. Should we be doing? Or should we be waiting?
Well, based on that design, I mean, the lane, the bike travel lane on the left side there, I mean, I don't think you're gonna run into the resistance from the residents that I was anticipating on Lexington with the parking on the right. I don't even think we would need to stripe it out. If we just put the bike lanes in and leave the rest of the road open for both travel and parking.
So he was
I
actually.
don't think I don't think there's a lot of cars that park on Lex.
There are people that get really lazy and not a lot, but like, there are people who are active about it.
Yeah, thanks.
So
Jim.
there's Lex.
Actually showing Grand because Grand has more pavement than Lex.
Right, so.
That's
So,
designed for
Something on,
Lexington.
this is what we put together.
this is what we put together, but
If you want to put it in the middle, you would just flip them.
you would just flip them.
You could just flip them. There's quite a bit more pavement on Grand than there is on Lexington.
Yes.
Grand has 23.
The brand has 23
Lex has
feet.
18.
Lex has 18.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that we need to change what you guys had originally wanted to do. I'm just wondering, you know.
Would Lex be a possibility for a bike path in the median if they did one on Grand, or,
There's actually a clear path all the way
you
down.
know,
You go right down here.
is that something we can learn on Lex by doing this as to whether it makes sense? I mean, if there's not much resistance to this, people like it, would they be more amenable to, they might say, don't put the bike path in the median, put it on one side of the road, paint it, we like that, or if this doesn't work, I mean, would you consider putting a bike path in the median on Lex as well as Grand?
So
Or?
I actually don't think we need to decide today. I think just knowing it all, like, let's think about it. Unfortunately, I'm actually closing the office at 4 because I don't even have staff.
Okay.
I just texted the lady that's watching my child to see if I can run a teeny bit late, but I don't really have any backup for you guys. Yeah.
Well, do we have to decide or can we think about
When's
it?
the next meeting?
Next meeting is the end of August, so then we're already September, October, but I don't know. How about we do a machine gun vote? I mean, what is your thought today? Are you still a Lex guy, Ben, or are you?
Do you guys, sorry to do this, do you guys want to make a subcommittee for this?
I suppose we
And then
could do a subcommittee.
It doesn't require everyone to be here,
Okay,
and I'm happy to be on.
okay, good.
So maybe Ben, if you want, just email me and we'll just set up a meeting with you and Jim and
Yeah,
you know.
like in
yeah,
the
go
next couple,
ahead.
like in the next couple weeks between
I'll
now
close
and the
it all
next meeting.
down. Yeah.
Is that okay with you, Jim?
Yeah, and Andrew. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
was-
and Andrew, I think was.
Didn't Andrew go out and look at some intersections? Somebody?
Yeah, he's on that committee too,
Yeah,
so.
we looked at some roundabout
Yeah.
possible abilities.
So if you guys can get together in the next week or 10 days and make a recommendation and maybe we can learn a little bit more from the county on what their thoughts are and then we'll,
That's really important.
yeah, it is. So,
All that I'll say is that
All I'll say is that a demo project.
the bikes in the grass is very
The
difficult.
grass is very difficult to do.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. It's true.
yeah.
It
Well,
doesn't
I-
it doesn't look well, it's not realistic,
Realistic.
and I think has
And
liability
I
issues
think
if
it's
someone were to
issues
in a hole or something like that in the grass. We can talk details
We
later.
can talk details later.
In some ways, Lex could go quick because it's only about 19 homes to talk to. Most of the
It's
homeowners are
true.
going to be supportive.
It's not.
All we got to do is paint a line on the road, do an informational table and, learn what we learned. So
Are you available next week?
yeah.
Jim, are you available next Friday? You want to just do the same time?
Okay, let
Sorry,
me
you're muted,
put,
Jim.
Winnie Road on for the next meeting.
Okay.
And then can we do 2 minutes on Route 7? Or- Okay,
The update is that we're pushing them as hard as we can.
yeah.
Like, we're aware of the accidents. The June letters were actually sent in July. It just took that long for me to get signatures sent, but they were sent. I have gotten responses from Mark Cycaldo myself as well. I've responded to him saying, please give us a timeline on how long the study's going to take. And we'd still like to sit down and meet with you.
Yeah, also,
Um,
even though he's gonna do a study, there are other things we want to talk about, which would be the crosswalk at Hickory. We want to talk to him about
yeah,
Balltown Road between Rankin and Knott Street
yeah.
and the
I
Guy
mean,
Elementary School. So we have
Right.
things we want to talk to him about. And so I don't want to wait a year while they're doing the study. I mean, we're going to tell them our concerns about Route 7, but there's other things some of which they could do right now, they can think about right now. So
Yeah.
we want to get a meeting as soon as we can with Mark.
I'm working.
Okay.
You're not the only one. You guys already know from meeting with the chief of police.
Yes.
Every time he sees me in the hall, he asks me who we can email at DOT. And I mean, the supervisor is also,
Yep.
very plugged in. So even if it's not a meeting with Complete Streets and it just becomes a meeting with the chief of police and the supervisor, like.
Yeah, that's good. As a matter of fact, I'd say
pushing as hard as-
if they're talking Route 7, that's good, but as long as we've got Mark at the table, even if we just get 10 minutes on these others to say, by the way, these are some concerns that we have on state roads in this unit, we want to bring it to your attention.
We don't have that much time to talk about it today, but I even have been talking with CDTA on that bus stop to see if CDTA can leverage some of its funding to make that crosswalk safer, because they're looking.
Jimmy,
Well,
he's still the chair of CDTC, CDTA, still the chair of that committee.
CDTA is different.
Oh, okay.
CDTA is the public buses authority.
Oh, no, Jamie is still chair of CDTC.
Oh. CDTA, different. But anyway,
And he's a
I do
former,
have to go.
but he's Metroplex, so he's gonna have our interests at stake.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, we're definitely working as hard as we possibly can.
Okay, I guess I'm just saying, there's another lever that you can push.
Mhm.
And a friendly one.
Yeah.
That's gonna try and help
I'll make
us.
a motion to adjourn.
Would you like to second that one, Councilor? No. Move and second to adjourn. Thank everyone for coming today. Motion to adjourn, Jim. Thank you, Tess, and thank you to
I'll email about it.
and
Now we are, like,
I'm available like most afternoons.
so
yeah, I think we can.
Mary and Catherine, right?